Live from New Delhi, watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Nipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. President Draupadi Murmu hosted a banquet for EU leaders at Rashtrapati Bhavan on Tuesday, expressed confidence in India-EU free trade agreement. Budget session of Indian Parliament to commence today. President Murmu to address joint sitting of members of both the houses. US President Trump said he would de-escalate a little bit in Minneapolis after criticism over the fatal shootings of 2 civilians. Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman calls Iranian President Pezeshkian, assures the Gulf Kingdom will not allow its territory to be used for any military action against Iran. And in sports, India-I series dominance in 4th T20 International against New Zealand in Visakhapatnam. And on to the details now. President Draupadi Murmu hosted a banquet in the honor of President of the European Council, Antonio Costa, and President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, at Rashtrapati Bhavan on Tuesday. The President said that India and Europe are connected not only by contemporary interest, but also by shared values such as democracy, pluralism, and an open market economy. She expressed confidence that the India-EU free trade agreement will bring significant positive changes to the lives of our people. President Murmu said the India-EU security and defence partnership concluded during this visit will open new opportunities for the defence industries. The President said that India is keen to further strengthen cooperation with the EU in the fields of clean energy, climate finance and sustainable technologies. Well, several dignitaries, including Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, also attended the banquet hosted by the President. And earlier, India and European Union on Tuesday exchanged the historic free trade agreement. The deal was concluded following India-EU summit talks between Prime Minister Narendra Modi, President of the European Council Antonio Costa, and President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen in New Delhi. The trade pact, which has been described by both the sides as the mother of all trade deals, will open up the European markets for Indian labor-intensive goods comprising textiles and footwear. At the same time, it will make imported European items cheaper in India by reducing duties including luxury cars, wine and medicines. Besides, the India and European Union also exchanged several agreements in the fields of security, defence partnership, mobility, disaster risk management and green hydrogen. Well, addressing a joint press conference with 2 European leaders after the talks, the Prime Minister said inking of the biggest free trade deal between India and 27-nation European Union will deepen economic ties, create jobs, bolster global supply chains and strengthen the partnership between 2 sides for a prosperous future. Well, besides, the India and European Union also exchanged several agreements in the fields of security, defence partnership, mobility, disaster risk management and green hydrogen. Also addressing a joint press conference with 2 European leaders after the talks, Prime Minister Modi said inking of the biggest free trade deal between India and the 27-nation European Union will deepen economic ties, create jobs, bolster global supply chains and strengthen the partnership between two sides for a prosperous future. All right, and news just coming in. According to PTI news agency, Maharashtra's Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar and 5 other persons were killed after an aircraft carrying them crashed in Pune district on Wednesday morning. Well, the incident occurred when the plane carrying NCP leader Pawar and others was landing in Pune's Baramati area. The aircraft met with an accident during landing in Baramati, 100 kilometers from Pune. Well, the preliminary reports are unclear whether it was a crash landing or a technical failure. Administration and aviation department teams reached the site and launched relief and rescue operations. Further inputs are yet awaited. We're getting you shots from the plane crash site right now, the visuals from there. The news just coming in that Maharashtra's Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar and 5 other people were killed after this aircraft carrying them crashed in Pune district on Wednesday morning. Well, we have Shishir Sheller joining us from Mumbai on the phone line. Well, Shishir, please let us know what exactly happened.
Well, today in the morning, a private aircraft actually carrying NCP leader Ajit Pawar along with 6 other people crashed today in Baramati in Maharashtra. Well, the incident occurred while the plane was attempting to land near Baramati region. And what we got to know is that Ajit Pawar along with the pilot and some of his party workers was arriving to Baramati to attend a public rally, a public function. And that's the reason, the flight took off in the morning from Mumbai and was heading towards Baramati. Well, according to the preliminary information that we've received, it is not clear whether the incident was due to a crash landing or technical malfunction. But teams from the administrations and the aviation department have reached the spot, and rescue and relief operation currently is underway. Well, so far there's no formal official confirmation of any casualties. But what we got to know from the DGC is that the 6 persons were actually on board the plane, and the 6th person having died in this accident crash. As far as Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar is concerned, we haven't got any official information regarding his health right now. But the local administration right now at the spot is doing the detailed investigation. It's conducting and to ascertain the casualties of probably the injured person here. And the security has been tightened near the areas, and the flight movement have also been monitored into this particular region.
All right, Shishir, we are showing the visuals from there to our viewers. We can see fire, the plane caught fire there at the site. How is the relief work going on? We can see some officials also there right now.
Well, it's almost an hour that we got the news about the plane crashing here. And as soon as the administration also got the information, they swung into action. Some of the rescue team from the administration department have reached to the spot immediately. As we know that there was an official function of Ajit Pawar in Baramati, and that's the reason the administration was there in the Baramati. As soon as the department got to know about these things, the police officials along with the rescue team reached the spot, and immediately the injured person have been taken to the hospital. Currently, as I said, that the department and the administration is actually conducting the investigation that how the entire accident took place here. But the official information, we're still awaited for it.
Right. But what are the preliminary reports saying, Shishir? What do we know as of now?
Well, it's not clear whether the incident was due to any, due to a crash landing or technical malfunction so far. And that's the reason probably the team will collect some of the important evidences from the location, probably the black blocks also, and we'll try to find out that what exactly happened during the landing. Because what we got to know is that the flight took off from Mumbai. It was well, there was not any problem recorded here. But while the landing, we have seen that the crash landing happened. And that's the reason now the technical team from the DGC also will investigate the matter as exactly what happened. And the administration is also there on the spot along with the aviation department.
All right, Shishir, thank you so much for that information. Well, a plane crashes in Baramati carrying the Maharashtra's Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar and 5 other people who have been killed as of now. As what we know, that the aircraft crashed near Pune, that is 100 kilometers from Pune. Well, moving on, the budget session of Indian Parliament will commence on Wednesday with the address of President Draupadi Murmu to the joint sitting of members of both the houses. The first phase is scheduled from January 28 to February 13th, while the second phase will run from March 9 to April 2nd. Well, the session will feature 30 sittings, with the Union Budget 2026-27 being presented on the 1st of February in the lower house. Earlier, the government on Tuesday convened an all-party meeting and appealed for cooperation for smooth functioning of both the houses of parliament. Speaking to the media after the meeting, the Parliamentary Affairs Minister said the first part of the budget session will have motion of thanks on President's address. Later discussion on budget will be held in both the houses. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the annual NCC PM rally at the Kariyappa Parade Ground in Delhi on Wednesday. The theme of this year's rally is Rashtriya Pratham Kartavya Nishtha Yuva. The NCC PM rally will mark the grand culmination of the month-long NCC Republic Day Camp 2026. The camp witnessed the participation of 2,406 NCC cadets from across the country, including 898 girl cadets. The rally will also see the participation of 207 youth and officers from 21 foreign countries. The theme of this year's rally is Rashtriya Pratham Kartavya Nishtha Yuva, reflecting the spirit of duty, discipline and national commitment among India's youth. On the occasion, a vibrant cultural program will be presented by NCC cadets, members of Rashtriya Rangshala and National Service Scheme, showcasing their role in nation building, social service and character development. Bureau Report, DD India. Well, anchoring the theme, Indian aviation, paving the future from design to deployment, manufacturing to maintenance, inclusivity to innovation and safety to sustainability, Wings India 2026, Asia's largest civil aviation expo, has been inaugurated by Union Civil Aviation Minister K. Ram Mohan Naidu at Begumpet Airport in Hyderabad. Hosted by the Ministry of Civil Aviation with the support of the Telangana government, the event aims to highlight India's growing strength in civil aviation manufacturing and rising demand in the sector. Now, speaking at the inaugural event, the Civil Aviation Minister said the government's focus over the next decade will be on strengthening the country's manufacturing ecosystem to meet future aviation requirements. He expressed confidence that India could emerge as a global exporter in civil aviation within the next 10 to 12 years.
This time, the Wings India show, what we are confident to showcase is the strength of India in the field of civil aviation, especially in the manufacturing sector. You have all seen how the demand and the growth has been in the area of civil aviation. We have doubled the airports, we have doubled the passenger growth, we have doubled the aircraft fleet that we have over the last 10 years, thanks to the visionary Prime Minister, Honorable Shri Narendra Modi ji, and the kind of reforms that he has brought in civil aviation, especially the UDAN scheme. But what we are trying to do right now and for the next decade that is going to come is to improve the manufacturing ecosystem in the country.
Well, the Union Minister of State for Home Affairs, Nityanand Rai, on Wednesday virtually flagged off the CISF Vande Mataram Coastal Cyclathon 2026 from the Major Dhyan Chand National Stadium in New Delhi. Organized under the theme Surakshit Tat Samriddh Bharat, or Secure Coast, Prosperous India, the event reflects the patriotic spirit of Vande Mataram and aims to raise awareness about coastal security and national unity. The 25-day cyclathon will cover 6,553 kilometers along India's mainland coastline, making it one of the longest coastal cycling campaigns in the country. Two teams of Central Industrial Security Force cyclists have set off simultaneously, one from Kutch in Gujarat along with western coast, the other from Bakali in West Bengal along the eastern coast. Now, the teams are scheduled to converge in Kerala's Kochi on the 22nd of February 2026. And still to come in DD India Newshour. US announces major multi-day Air Force exercise in West Asia as military presence expands. US judge temporarily blocks deportation of 5-year-old child detained by ICE. And Russian drone strike hits passenger train in Ukraine. Zelensky calls it act of terrorism.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
Goa, a wild nature paradise, where
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, demonstrators gathered inside the Minnesota state capitol to protest the deployment of federal agents carrying out the Trump administration's immigration crackdown, with demonstrators urging that officials should handle immigration without harming the community. Now, meanwhile, US President Donald Trump said he would de-escalate a little bit in Minneapolis after the fatal shootings of 2 civilians sparked national outrage. Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, met city and state officials as the administration attempted damage control following the killing of 37-year-old nurse Alex Pretty. Trump acknowledged that Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino, now expected to leave Minneapolis, may have worsened the tensions. Also, calls for independent investigations and a reduction of federal forces have grown, while Democrats warn the violence betrays core American values. Protest and public criticism continue to mount as concern spreads nationwide.
Tom Homan, as you know, is in Minnesota now. He's meeting with the governor, and he's meeting with the mayor, I think, later. And I hear that's all going very well. Well, you know, we're doing a big investigation. I want to see the investigation. I'm going to be watching over it. I want a very honorable and honest investigation. I have to see it myself.
Well, meanwhile, a US judge temporarily blocked the deportation of a 5-year-old boy whose detention by Immigration and Custom Enforcement agents last week drew widespread public outrage amid immigration raids in Minneapolis. Now, 5-year-old Liam Conejo Ramos and his father, Adrian Conejo Arias, who are asylum seekers from Ecuador, were arrested on January 20th by ICE agents. Photographs soon went viral of 5-year-old Liam wearing a fluffy blue cap and a backpack being held as he was detained by a federal agent dressed in black. Now, US immigration authorities, however, said that the boy was picked up outside of his home after his father fled the scene. Well, the United States on Tuesday announced a major multi-day Air Force exercise in the West Asia. The announcement came a day after the U.S. military said the Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group had arrived in the West Asia, boosting American firepower in the region. Well, according to the U.S. Air Force component of Central Command, the exercise will demonstrate the ability to deploy, disperse and sustain combat air power across West Asia. Now, no date or exact location for the exercise were released. An Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Tuesday that Israel is focusing on disarming Hamas and demilitarizing Gaza of weapons and tunnels following the return of the last hostage from the territory.
Now we are focused on completing the two remaining tasks: disarming Hamas and clearing Gaza of weapons and tunnels.
Well, meanwhile, aid trucks bound for Gaza were seen in Egypt on Tuesday, with the Rafah border crossing expected to open after Israel recovered the remains of the last remaining hostage held in Gaza. Now, the movement of aid trucks from Egypt's Rafah bound to Gaza has been accelerated since October 2025 ceasefire, but Palestinian and UN officials have argued it was not enough. And as the sides prepare to launch the second phase of the Trump-Gaza plan, they urged for an unrestricted flow of aid into Gaza. Israel said on Monday that it would only allow pedestrians to travel through the Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt as part of its limited reopening. Now, early on Monday, the remains of police officer Ran Gwilly, held in Gaza for more than 840 days, have been identified, completing a core aspect of the initial phase of President Donald Trump's plan to end the war. Now, the second stage, which Washington announced had started earlier this month, includes the reopening of Gaza's Rafah border with Egypt. And moving on, a Russian drone strike hit a passenger train in Ukraine's northeastern region, killing 5 people, according to the prosecutors. The attack set several train carriages on fire near a village, with visuals showing burning coaches along a snow-covered railway line. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky denounced the strike as an act of terrorism and called for intensified pressure on Moscow. Well, the train strike came hours after overnight drone attacks on the southern city of Odessa, where 3 people were killed and at least 25 others wounded. Kharkiv city's mayor informed around 40% of households were left without electricity following combined missile and drone strikes. Meanwhile, Ukraine's Air Force said Russian troops had launched 165 drones overnight, where 135 of them were neutralized by air defenses. Now, the latest strikes came ahead of another round of U.S. brokered talks between Russian and Ukrainian officials. Following this, Ukraine is urging its allies, particularly the U.S., to step up pressure on Moscow, saying lasting peace would require accountability and strong security guarantees as well. And moving on, a South Korean court will pass judgment on Wednesday in the case of former First Lady Kim Ko-in-hee in alleged stock fraud and corruption case. The prosecution team last month sought a 15-year prison sentence for the former First Lady and also requested $2 billion won in fines and a $940 million won penalty to recoup unlawful gains. Prosecutors alleged Kim reaped about 800 million won of profits in 2010 and 2011 by participating in illegal stock manipulation. She was also accused of accepting lavish bribes from businesses and politicians totaling over $200,000, including 2 Chanel bags and a Graf necklace from the Unification Church as part of its efforts to win influence. The former First Lady has denied all the charges, claiming the allegations were deeply unjust in her final testimony last month. But she has also apologized for causing trouble despite being a person of no importance. Well, the global awards season is picking up pace with major film bodies announcing their nominations, and the attention has now shifted to Britain with the announcement of the BAFTA Film Award nominations are out, offering an early signal of which films could shape the race to Hollywood. Diptanshu Kashyap brings us this report.
With the awards season in full swing, the focus has moved to England, as the BAFTA Film Award nominations for 2025 were announced. The nominations were unveiled by British actors Amy Lowood and David Johnson. Leading the race is Paul Thomas Anderson's comedy thriller One Battle After Another, which secured 14 nods, including acting nominations for Leonardo DiCaprio and Chase Infinity, along with multiple supporting actor mentions. The film also earned directing and adapted screenplay nominations for Anderson. Close behind is Ryan Coogler's vampire thriller Sinners with 13 nominations, receiving recognition for Michael B. Jordan as well as Coogler in the directing and original screenplay categories. Period drama Hamnet and sports comedy Marty Supreme followed with 11 nods each, alongside strong showings for the drama Sentimental Value. This year's nominations also highlighted growing recognition for women filmmakers, with Hamnet becoming the most nominated film ever directed by a woman at the BAFTAs. Notably, all 5 films nominated in the Best Film Not in the English Language category mirrored this year's Oscar nominees for Best International Feature Film. BAFTA officials described the lineup as a reflection of bold storytelling across genres and cultures. The BAFTA Film Awards will be presented in London on February 22nd, further intensifying the Oscars race. Diptanshu Kashyap for DD India.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Emotional support dogs are greeting passengers at Felipe Angeles International Airport in Mexico, helping ease stress and anxiety among the travelers. The program, launched in November in coordination with National Guard, aims to provide calm and comfort to passengers as they move through the airport. Hundreds of people in Lerwick, Scotland marched through the streets carrying flaming torches to mark the ancient Viking festival of Up-Hela-A. Leaders of the procession dressed as Vikings, while crowds followed in colorful costumes. The festival, held for over 140 years in its modern form, traces its roots back more than 12 centuries to rituals marking the sun's return after the winter solstice.
Cheers for the boys who made the galleon!
And time now for a short break. We'll be back in a while.
Union Budget 2026-27 is round the corner, and the Indian industry has a wish list.
4 large buckets that we have looked at are essentially self-reliance. Support that could be provided to the exports is the second one. The continuity of the factor market reforms, ease of doing business, again something which is being pursued by the government but accelerated further.
On MSMEs, would you recommend any greater allocation, considering more than 45% to Indian exports?
This whole ease of doing business is largely aimed at how we can give a little more room for MSMEs to breathe and to be able to operate more easily. There is a talent which is sitting within the private sector, which is what need to be really combined.
Coming to the budget income tax slabs, has FICCI or Indian industry recommended any sort of tweaking there?
So I think a lot has been done last year. Income tax slabs as well as the GST slabs have been significantly rationalized, and I think it's need to now see how that converts into greater demand and hence into greater capital formation.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. President Draupadi Murmu hosted a banquet for EU leaders at Rashtrapati Bhavan on Tuesday, expressed confidence in India-EU free trade agreement. Budget session of Indian Parliament to commence today. President Murmu to address joint sitting of members of both the houses. US President Trump said he would de-escalate a little bit in Minneapolis after criticism over the fatal shootings of 2 civilians. Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman calls Iranian President Pezeshkian, assures the Gulf Kingdom will not allow its territory to be used for any military actions against Iran. And in sports, India-I series dominance in the 4th T20 International against New Zealand in Visakhapatnam. And moving on, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said there is almost nothing normal about dealing with the United States. Speaking in Parliament, Mark Carney responded to questions on whether trade negotiations with Washington remain cordial, saying there is currently nothing normal about relations with the United States. He made the remarks after returning to Ottawa from the World Economic Forum, where he said the US-led rules-based international order is facing a rupture. And Venezuelan interim president Delcy Rodriguez said on Tuesday that her government maintains open, respectful and cordial communication with US President Donald Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio as both sides seek to develop a bilateral working agenda. Now, speaking during a visit to a hospital in Caracas, Rodriguez echoed Trump's remarks that dialogue channels have been established with the U.S. officials based on mutual respect and courtesy. She added that discussions with Rubio are focused on setting up a framework for cooperation. Now, Rodriguez also said the government is taking steps to recover Venezuelan assets frozen overseas, noting that any funds unlocked would be allocated to priority sectors such as healthcare, electricity, natural gas and other social programs aimed at improving public services.
Yo reafirmo lo que ha dicho el presidente Donald Trump.
I reaffirm what President Donald Trump has said, that we have established channels of communication, respect and courtesy, both with the President of the United States and with Secretary Rubio, with whom we are establishing a working agenda.
Y que estamos hoy.
Also, Colombian President Gustavo Petro said on Tuesday that Venezuela's Maduro should be sent back from U.S. custody to face trial in his home country, insisting Venezuelan courts, not U.S. authorities, should handle his prosecution. Now, Maduro, who was captured by American forces in early January operation and is now being held in New York on drug trafficking and related charges, has appeared in a U.S. federal court and pleaded not guilty. Pedro's comments come just before his first planned visit to Washington, where he's set to meet U.S. President Donald Trump amid historically strained relations between Bogota and Washington.
Bombardear Caracas.
They must return him and allow a Venezuelan court to judge him, not a US one. Why? Because Latin American civilization is different from the Anglo-Saxon, European one.
Maduro.
Meanwhile, Colombia announced on Tuesday a 30% tariff on 23 Ecuadorian products in response to its neighboring country's hike in oil transport fees, while signaling willingness to engage in dialogue to ease tensions. Now, Ecuador raised the cost of transporting Colombian crude through its trans-Ecuadorian pipeline system from about $2.50 to over $30 per barrel, Colombian authorities said. The move deepens a growing trade dispute between the two Andean nations. Earlier, Ecuador announced a 30% security surcharge on Colombian imports, citing insufficient cooperation against cross-border drug trafficking. Also, Colombia responded with reciprocal tariffs and suspended electricity exports. The dispute also affects a 2024 agreement under which Ecuador's Petro-Ecuador transport Colombian crude via the Osla and Sot pipelines, carrying more than 13,000 barrels per day at previously agreed lower rates. And moving on, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un will unveil plans to bolster his nuclear forces at an upcoming ruling party meeting. The landmark Congress of North Korea's ruling Workers' Party is expected in the coming weeks and is its first in the last 5 years. The North Korean leader on Tuesday oversaw a test of a large caliber multiple rocket launch system and described the launch as a serious threat to forces trying to provoke the nation. Officials said the test is part of a policy to build reliable offensive capabilities and deterrence to prevent any attempt to spark armed conflict. South Korea and Japan condemned the launch, which involved possible short-range ballistic missiles fired towards the Sea of Japan.